we live?
We're live.
Okay, we are live on Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's being broadcasted, yay! Very high tech. So this is our first speaker event for, since the 50th anniversary party and everything that's gone on all summer and last year. And for those that didn't participate, we had a great 50th anniversary gala. We raised over close to almost $400,000 for Houston Audubon during the gala, which is outstanding. We also had a great bird week that was hosted by our young professionals group, the YPAC, and who participated in Bird Week? That's a good showing of hands. That was a great week. Perhaps one of the major things about Bird Week was a beer was made in Audubon, Pelican, which is a pale ale, and a play on the word pelican. And Juanita says you're supposed to laugh here. High Island, there's a lot going on right now in High Island. We're building a new canopy boardwalk, looking forward to that being open this spring. Invite everybody to please come out and enjoy that. That'll be a nice addition. We have a new restroom facility being built in Smith Oaks that'll be available with flushing toilets. Yes, that's a big thing. And also our coop, as we call it, is going to be another thing that's going to be available for volunteers to be able to park RVs. Our interns will have a new bunkhouse. We'll have a new gathering space. It's a nice addition to High Island. Houston Audubon has made a huge investment over the last year into the High Island sanctuary system. Hopefully that'll support us for years to come. So I think it's ironic that it seems like every speaker event for the last 2 years, you can predict the weather by speaker event. At least we didn't have a tropical storm like we did one night. We had to cancel because of it. But we're very lucky tonight to have Debbie or Deborah. Deborah Moran, and she has a lifelong interest in, I forgot one thing. I'm sorry. Hold that up. Our raffle.
Honest man.
All right.
The number is 734789. Who was it?
734789?
Yes.
I got it. Oh, thank you. And I needed one of these.
That was Weston who helped us. Thank you, Weston.
You're welcome.
So Deborah, back to Deborah, has had a lifelong interest in astronomy since her childhood in Midland, Texas. Did you go to Lee or High?
I would have gone to Lee, but I came here in 7th grade.
Oh,
I would
okay.
have gone to Lee.
Okay. She has been a lifelong time member of the Houston Astronomical Society and has served as in a number of capacities there. Currently as a novice chair in charge of programs of new members. She also participates in an outreach program and is a volunteer telescope operator at the Georgia Observatory in Russell Spence State Park. That's really great. She is the 2017 recipient of the International Dark Sky Association Hogg Robinson Award for Education of Government Officials about outdoor lighting issues. 2010, her Woodside neighborhood became the first within the Houston city limits, allowing to install low glare, fully shielded decorative street lights. For the past 4 years, she has presented concerns about the choice of high glare white LED street lights in Houston to city officials and hopes that Houston area will someday join the communities in moving to a warm or soft white amber LEDs, which are recommended by the American Medical Association for reduced glare and reduced disruption of the day and night circadian functions. She's also lobbied for lighting ordinance or education programs to reduce security light glare and has created a website, www.softlighthouston.com, to educate citizens on lighting issues. She is prominent. She's promoted the Houston Police Department to recommend soft shielding lighting as well. She's also retired from the Houston Symphony after 27 years as a violinist. Deborah?
Is it possible to move this up to the podium, the computer, or I'll just lean over? Okay.
You can do whatever you want.
So is this on?
It's this.
Oh. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yeah, this is on. Yeah, that's possible. Right, and my right is here. I can move. So I'm Debbie Moran, in person Deborah and Trent, and I am a member of the Houston Astronomical Society, which is why I know anything about this at all. So all amateur astronomers get educated about pointing light downward, and now the new concern is also the color of the light and the age of LEDs. So our immediate concern is saving the sky, but the benefits are for everyone, for human beings, for visibility, for animals, for plants. Our position, which is a very hard sell when you're an amateur astronomer and calling the lights that work a dark sky, is that the visibility is actually better on the ground too. So I think you'll all be convinced by the end of this talk. So I've known about the International Dark Sky Association just about since its founding by Drs. David Crawford and Tim Hunter, who are from Tucson, and they were most concerned about lighting to protect the nearby observatories, especially Kitt Peak, which is a major observatory in the United States. And so they organized the International Dark Sky Association to educate people to do something that really was not being done up to then, and that is to hide the light bulb and exterior lighting so that all the lights aim downward and none of it goes upward or outward into the sky. They also coined the term light pollution, which confuses a lot of people. How can light actually be a pollutant? Well, when you think about anything else that's polluted, it does two things. It ruins some kind of natural phenomenon, like a river or a lake might turn brown instead of blue, or the air might turn brown and murky instead of clear. The same thing, light can pollute the sky, but by making all the stars disappear when you have too much of it. But that's not the only problem. The other component in pollution is health, and light actually can adversely affect our health when used poorly at night. So the first thing it does is if there's too much of it and it's too white, more like sunlight, it messes with our circadian rhythms. So every human being, plant, animal has evolved in an environment where it's light with a kind of blue light or a very full spectrum light during the day. And then at night that either light disappears or the blue component disappears. So our bodies are designed to produce melatonin. When that happens, that's what cues us to feel sleepy and go to sleep. But there's also a cancer risk because a number of cancers, including breast and prostate, grow faster when melatonin is not present. And I'll discuss that a little bit later if I have time. But there are many studies that corroborated that using light that suppresses melatonin at night also causes cancers or increases their incidence. So the easiest solution would be, of course, to turn off the lights and if so, leave and just say good night right now. But human beings are actually not very good animals for seeing in the dark. So we do need, when we're functioning at night, we need to be able to see. So if you have to leave early, the general message is going to be that in order for us to do the best, with the least impact on the nighttime ecology, we're advocating a warmer colored shielded light at the minimum intensity needed, and preferably only when needed. And that way humans can be safe and the sky and plants and animals, our health, everything else can work better too. So I'm going to start out with streetlights. I won the award for advocating in Houston, but actually we have been unsuccessful so far. I've been working on this since 2015, I will introduce you to the engineers that we're working with, Chris Monrad in Tucson, and Jim Benya and Davis have lit a number of other cities. And when I talked to a lighting engineer here who lit Allen Parkway a little bit better than some of the rest of the city, I told him we were working with Jim Benya, and he's way above my pay grade. So I'm not a lighting engineer, but we're getting our advice from some of the best. Previous streetlights were either mercury vapor, even before, say, 40 years ago. Then we moved to high pressure sodium, which is a familiar amber light you still see sometimes around Houston, or metal halide, which works like high pressure sodium, but is a wider color. Now we have the new kid on the block. Let me get this to play.
Behold, the light-emitting diode, or LED. But where did it come from? Meet Nick Hollignac, Jr., born in Illinois in 1928. Although Nick was born in the U.S., his parents had immigrated from the Carpathian Mountains of Europe. During Nick's childhood, his father traveled widely, working primarily as a miner. Nick was the first member of his family to receive formal schooling. Eventually, Nick earned a PhD in electrical engineering from the University of Illinois. During this time, he worked with Dr. John Bardeen, who later co-invented the transistor. Over the course of his career, Nick has made numerous discoveries, improvements, and breakthroughs, but he's best known for one invention that outshines the rest, the light-emitting diode, or LED. But what is it exactly? First, let's start with diodes. Diodes are simple semiconductors, and the conductor material is usually aluminum, gallium, arsenide. The flow of electrons in this material can produce light more efficiently than a traditional incandescent bulb. LEDs last much longer than light bulbs, and they produce much less heat. For this achievement, Nick is sometimes known as the father of the light-emitting diode. As subsequent researchers revised his invention, the LED has spread out from labs at General Electric to countries, cities, and homes throughout the planet.
So the characteristics of LED light are that's just different from previous lighting. They're a point source, so normally the source LEDs are very small, and they're highly directional. That's why the glare from LEDs hurts your eyes so much more. It's like concentrated lightning if it's pointed towards you. A lot of them are produced in white because it's a very efficient color to produce. So we see you have a lot more whiter light than we're used to at night. But they are available in many different colors. There are other advantages that they're dimmable and programmable, which we could not do with previous lighting. That's an advantage. They're also extremely energy efficient, so all of the energy is converted to light. You can actually touch an LED light bulb that's been on for many hours without it hurting your hand. And that's what makes them really great for fighting climate change by reducing energy. And they also have extreme longevity, so it can take a very long time before you need to change a light bulb. So all of that's great. We have no problems with that. The problem, though, is that you can have a backfiring. LEDs are so inexpensive and the energy is so inexpensive that they're often overused. So this is actually not the highest glare direction. The highest glare is to the right in the picture. So what's happening here is that about 3/4 of the lights that you can see has nothing to do with lighting the parking lot there. So what you need to do is point that light downward. You can probably use about 1/3 of the energy that they're using to still have as much light on the parking lot. This is Tim Hunter and David Crawford. The reason I became interested in this is that at another, I can't remember, the space or astronomy convention, I heard Tim Hunter speak, and this was about 12 years ago maybe, and he said, LED is coming. We are worried that cities will try to adopt it before the technology for the warmer colors is well developed. And that's pretty much what's happened. Houston's a relatively early adopter. There are even earlier adopters, say in England, where the light was even a harsher color of white. And now there's warmer colors that you can use, which are the best of all worlds. So, of course, in 2014, I was told you're going to be thrilled, because I'd already been working on my neighborhood trying to get light pointed downward. We're getting new street lights, they're going to be pointed downward. Then they said the color, and I wrote my first letter then, I was having heard that talk. The color was going to have a wider, higher blue content. So I was trying to think, how can I convince people that brighter is not better? So this little clip is from one of my favorite movies, Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, and I apologize to anyone who's not seen it. This is the climactic scene. And it's a murder mystery.
What do you want from me?
You can watch it, I'm not going to show all of it.
Your friend, the girl, could have turned me in. Why didn't she? What is it you want? A lot of money? I don't have any money. Say something. Say something. Tell me what you want. Can you get me that ring back? No. Tell her to bring it back. I can't. The police have it by now.
The movie to find out what happens after that. Or not. So I have a question for the young man in the front.
Your friend's a girl.
Whoops, sorry. Did you happen to notice what the man in the wheelchair did every time he took a picture?
You know, I was like,
Yeah, he hid his eyes, didn't he? And you know why? That was so that he would not be blinded by the bright light as much as his attacker would be blinded. So all of amateur astronomers know that we see much better in the dark without a bright light in our eyes. So LEDs can be the solution to this problem, or they can be the problem. These are two actual photos I took in hotel rooms I stayed in. So on the left side is the Dallas Doubletree near Love Field. This is from my 7th floor window. There are actually two of these bright white LEDs pointed at the room. I'm sure they wanted to light the side of the building. And you can see looking outside, there's only one thing I can see well. It's the gas station, which does have the light pointing downward. Everything else looks pretty dark out there. They still have the traditional street lights. On the right side, I stayed in Geneva, Switzerland a few months later, and I was there for about 4 nights in the exact center of town across from the train station. And about the 3rd night, I opened the blinds, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing a soft, warm color, exactly like I've been trying to convince Houston to do. So I got dressed, ran down, and looked at this town square from the ground, and also saw lots of people on the street, cafes. All of the downtown had non-glare, warm lighting, either induction or LED, and there was not one dark shadow anywhere around. And it looked actually slightly more subdued. I'm sorry, I edited it to make it look about what I saw. So it was not overly bright either, but you could see everything really well. This is what we're advocating for, either this color or more amber. Also, the question is, how much light do you really need? So, for instance, Houston's lights are pointed downward, and some businesses, but you really need it to be like daylight outside at night. So you see the same light here dimmed all the way down to 20%. You still see pretty well. So that's the other part of the message: is only use the amount of light that you need. The other thing is that the eye reacts to glare in such a way that if you dim a light 50%, it doesn't look to your eye like it's half as bright. It looks more like 70% as bright. So you'll be able to see that when we do the light test, how that works. So the problem with all this LED lighting just springing up everywhere is that we're now up to 80% of the world's population not being able to see the Milky Way. And we don't necessarily expect to see the Milky Way in a city as large as Houston, but if the large cities light bright, then you don't have to drive as far outside the city to show your kids what a really nice dark sky looks like. So at night, why is brighter not better? So why did that camera hurt the assailant's eyes? Well, your eye can see about a huge range of brightness from about 1 down to 1 billionth as bright. So the same eyes can see the bright daylight scene and the very dark starry sky scene, but they have to dark adapt for about 30 minutes to see the dark scene. So the problem is that you can't see it all at once. So what happens is your eye adapts to the brightest thing it sees, and then below a certain amount, everything turns black, even if it has light on it. So it's actually lit, but you just can't see it. And on the right, this is the same problem with the white headlights, that you see even less around the car. And if that's not corrected, I think there'll come a time where we can barely drive at night at all. So I know the car safety board is looking into that. So this effect is instantaneous. The guy is actually standing at the gate in both pictures, but you can't see him on the left side because of the glare from the bulb. And the problem with advocating for better lighting is everyone focuses on what they can see. So sure, you can see a lot of the yard on the left side, but with the same light, you would have been able to see the guy standing at the gate if you just had a shield over it. So glare is basically the enemy of your night vision. And it's a factor not only of the brightness of the light, but also color and light scatter. The color is related to the amount of light scatter. So how does this work? Well, blue light, which is mixed into the wider LEDs we see, has a shorter wavelength. And the problem when you're trying to explain this to people is that shorter wavelength is exactly the same reason things look super sharp under white light. So we'll see that later with the lamp. So that's a good thing, is the super sharpness. The bad thing is what it does to your night vision. So this is why the sky is blue. The sun puts out all colors of light, but the blue, the shortest wavelengths, scatter all over the place. And when you look at the sky, you see the most scattered light, which is the blue color. Just a quick tutorial on ways light bulbs and LEDs are labeled. They describe color in terms of a temperature, so it's degrees Kelvin. That has nothing to do with how hot does the bulb feel when you touch it. It's the color. A piece of iron heated to that temperature would glow. So you may know that to heat up your stove, it turns bright red. That's kind of actually a relatively cool color if you're looking at stars or flames. But if you have a flame, the blue, the hottest part is blue, and then the top part's yellow. So to give you an idea of some familiar light bulbs that you might know, a daylight bulb is 5,000 K. That means 5,000 degrees, described as 5,000 degrees Kelvin. The typical warm white, like incandescent bulbs that we came from, and a warm white interior light is 2,700 K. And halogen is just slightly lighter at 3,000. And then the street lights we used to have outside that are amber color are closer to 2,200 K. That can range from about 2,000 to 2,200. So those are the colors you need to remember. And just to show you the glare problem with color alone, these 4 light bulbs are exactly the same wattage. So if someone were to point them at the ground and take a light meter, measure the amount of light on the ground, they all give out the same amount of light. But notice how your eye reacts to them. The one on the right, which has the most blue, is really harsh on your eyes. The second from the right, the 4,000 K, is the Houston Streetlights and what many cities were doing back in 2009. And then you have on the left a little bit warmer white. So this warmer white color is like, say, the lights in this room. It's actually not as amber as our other lights. So some cities are doing that, so you get the higher visibility without the harshness and the glare. So, I have a little thing that I think circles it. So the American Medical Association and the International Dark Sky Association are recommending 3,000 K as the most blue you want in an exterior light. So for best visibility, here's a picture that shows the difference. It was the only photo I could find on the entire internet. The International Dark Sky Association didn't have any. In 2015, of a street that changed to warm white LED lights. This is in Germany. On the left side is actually not LED, it's metal, the metal halide I showed you, the white light. And this explains the hard sell. Notice how clear things are directly under the street lights on the left, but notice how black everything else is around it. On the right side, you still get lots of clarity, but the light looks more even. On the left side, it looks like they're trying to spread the light more, but your eye doesn't see it that way. On the right side, it looks like they're trying to spread the light less, and yet your eye sees it more evenly. Okay, so if you need to convince somebody who has one of those really bright, glary lights pointed at your window, this is on our website. It lasts 19 seconds, and it was done by some members of the Houston Astronomical Society at area school. And you're going to see, when I turn it on, you're going to see a woman. This takes 19 seconds. She's going to walk from left to right. So when you see her in front of the warm shielded lighting on the left of the walkway, she's going to be silhouetted, which some lighting engineers thought was a bad thing. But when she gets in front of the glare, you'll see why silhouetted is way better than the glare. So let's turn that on.
Okay. It says recording, I guess. That is a huge difference in visibility of light.
Right, so this is why when you see all those buildings with white lights, it's about all you see. You can take anyone out to hold their hand up in front of one of those lights, and all of a sudden everything that was supposed to be lit shows up. So that concludes the fastest you can do with a neighbor that has a light like that to show them what they're missing because of their white light. And this video is great too. So actually there's only one lamp there. The second one is a reflection in the neighboring school building's windows. So the other problem with light is, which I mentioned earlier, is health and the environment. So the reason it's a problem for our health is that the white light is natural during the day, but it's not at night. And that's because when the sun sets, the natural light reddens or turns more amber. And then once humans discovered to use fire, that also had no blue light in it. It's more of a warm color on all the faces. So that's what happened for millions of years before we had streetlights, and that's what our bodies expect. So what happens is when the sun sets, the blue frequency light leaves. You might have firelight, but the blue frequency light is gone. And our bodies create something called melatonin, and that's what makes you sleepy. So if you don't make it through the meeting, that will be why your body's starting to create melatonin, and you get sleepy. And then when the sun starts to come back up, the melatonin goes away. So the problem with the white LED street lights is that it has a lot of the blue frequency still in it, and that makes it harder for our bodies to create melatonin. So until we do something about the color of the lights, the best thing you can do is really get the best blackout shades you can in your bedroom. And they have to be pretty darn good because the white light will come around the edges also. And I don't know if they'll do it. I was able to get a house side shield. It doesn't help. Actually, the white light reflects off the clouds. I had to get blackout shades for my unlit backyard just because at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm afraid I'm a night owl, it's not dark outside. You see white clouds, and it never gets dark in Houston anymore. So cities would say, well, the white, and this was in the Houston Chronicle, the white LEDs are the same as moonlight. They're the same number, around 4,000 K, but moonlight is taking sunlight, which is actually a lot bluer, reflecting it off a warmer brown surface. And what comes back at us doesn't have much blue in it. The LEDs, you see that strong blue spike in the right side, that blue spike makes our LED lights about 30% blue, and that's the problem for us when we try to sleep. And the other thing is that the street lights are much brighter than moonlight. And then moonlight, even a full moon is out only for a part of the month. So I actually tested this. I went outside full moon, looked at my driveway, then went under my street light, and it was much, much brighter. So the health problems I mentioned before are sleep problems, and the significant increase in certain cancers to the extent that nurses who do night shifts ended up with twice the breast cancer rate as the day shift nurses. In a large study followed for years of over 40,000 nurses. This is the guy who figured that out, Dr. Richard Stevens. He just passed away in August, and I was also in touch with him. And he noticed that breast cancer was going up in the 1980s, and he was trying to figure out what had changed. Diets weren't really changing. He thought the light in cities was increasing, and since then many studies have been done. So blind women who live in cities have about half the breast cancer rate, but only if they're totally blind. They can't be just legally blind. And a very recent study in 2018 took space station pictures looking down at Madrid and Barcelona, which were some of the earlier adopters of white LED streetlights, and they found an exact sliding scale that in the whitest neighborhoods there was twice the incidence of breast cancer, 1.5 times the prostate cancer, and they're about to publish on colorectal cancer, and one of the authors told me that's about 90% higher in the white neighborhoods. So this is actually quite serious, and the astronauts get retired when their cancer risk goes up only 3% from being on the International Space Station. And this is Dr. Mario Mata, who we're also in contact with, who's one of the authors of the American Medical Association report that came out in June 2016. Of course, I sent this to City Council. There were some stories on the news about it. In most cities, it was international news, that they were recommending the use of warmer light because of these issues. So what about everyone else? I am going to get to nature. This is the Houston Audubon Society. Let's start out with trees. So this is a tree in Europe, and notice, do you notice anything weird about this tree in the front row? Yeah, what about the leaves? What do you think?
it looks wintry, but the leaves haven't fallen off yet.
Right, and do you know why they haven't fallen off yet?
Because the light is like.
Right. So I guess I kind of spelled it out there, but yes, so the problem is the light is by those on that side of the tree. And some of the ways that plants tell when to drop their leaves are from how long it's daytime versus how long it's nighttime. So nighttime gets longer as you come into autumn, and the leaves on that side couldn't tell that was happening because of the light in front of them. This is a soybean field. So soybeans turn brown. The brown is actually good when they're going to seed. But you see the green along the edge? You have an idea why that might be? What do you think?
Cause there's, I see, a light near there, and it looks like it's LED, so I think that might be affecting, the
Right, so
explosion.
they're hard to see, but there's streetlights that go all along, exactly along that green edge over there. The other problem is that there are some plants that get pollinated at night, especially by moths or some birds. And a study was done in Switzerland where they put some white light in the field, and then they looked at a dark field, and believe it or not, you can see in the dark if you're dark adapted. And they found 62% fewer visits in the white lit field. So a lot of plants won't get what they need to reproduce. Sea turtles are famous for being affected by light. So the mommy lays its eggs on the beach and buries it in the sand, and then the sea turtles all hatch. And they're supposed to go immediately to the ocean before anything eats them, and also to get to a safe spot. And they find the ocean by, say, a sunset or moonlight reflecting off the ripples in the water. But if they're at a beach with a lot of human beings that have a lot of lights, they often go the wrong way, like in the right side. So here's the tracks of confused baby sea turtles that can't find their way to the sea. So there is a solution. There's some special street lights that can be very amber. I mean, you could do that all the time. Or if you want to also use a whiter light, I would prefer soft, not the lightest. This street light has two colors. So when the baby turtles are coming out, they can be a very orangey color, and the baby turtles are not confused. Fireflies, I'm sorry that you're going to see many fewer fireflies than we did when we were kids. They're beautiful, like a light show in the fields. And that's because the male fireflies or the daddy fireflies are trying to find mommies by blinking on and off in certain patterns. And again, if there's a lot of light around, they can't find each other as well. So there's a lot fewer fireflies now than there were when I was your age. Migratory birds. So this cartoon says the solution to light at night for migratory birds is just wear a bunch of sunglasses like the birds on the wire. I actually have the news story featured the Houston Audubon Society on this in Houston.
And we are starting with this. 600 million birds will smack into a building this year.
And a new study by Cornell University shows Houston is the second most dangerous for migrating birds. But as Josh Marshall shows us, one simple step could make our city safer for those flocks.
This study is opening a lot of eyes to this topic, but perhaps the most attention this has ever gotten locally happened in Galveston. 398 birds crashed into a Galveston high-rise in 2017. All but 3 of the warblers died.
It's always devastating.
After the Galveston tragedy, Dr. Richard Gibbons and Houston Audubon Society took action. They partnered with American National in Galveston and made changes to the building to prevent another accident.
They turned their lights off, and it became a conservation victory, a business that truly led and wanted to be part of the solution.
Now, in the face of being labeled the second most dangerous city for migratory birds, Houston Audubon is calling on the city of Houston to become part of the same solution.
We can take action to reduce that risk, so we ask people to take a pledge.
Bird conservationists want homeowners and businesses with high-rise buildings to turn off unnecessary lights from at least April 19th to May 7th. That's when 50% of this year's migratory birds will pass through Houston.
That's what we've asked people, if they will help us take a pledge and make the Houston area a safer place for migratory birds.
Getting involved and taking that pledge doesn't require a lot of work, neither does turning off the lights. To find out how, just go to khou.com. In Houston, Josh Marshall, KHOU 11 News.
And we are...
So the issues for birds are not only the external exterior lights, but also the downtown buildings which leave their interior lights on. So definitely during migratory season, probably all the time, but those lights need to be off so that birds don't crash into the buildings. They're looking for the moon often, or a star. They use celestial navigation, and the city lights, they tend to fly straight at them. For bat-friendly lighting, what color are these lights? I mean, you're my question answer guy. Do you have color vision?
Yeah, those are really, 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 really amber lights.
Yes, very amber or almost red. And these are the kinds of, you might see bats like in the rainforest and beauty gardens, and they're under red light. So they don't actually see that. To them, that's still kind of nighttime. And amateur astronomers use red flashlights so that we see well at night. So red lights will make the bats come out at night and find their food. Now, if all else fails, this is the video that will convince everybody.
Business, man, because a lot of people don't pull up here and get gas, you know.
Yeah, so they're not too good for business to get a grasshopper invasion, and Houston has had one. I still remember Jones Hall covered with green grasshoppers coming into a concert once. We had some come through here also, and I've dropped my mic, haven't I? No, there it is. So I actually wanted to see if anyone of all the zillions of amateur videos had filmed a white light next to an amber light, and I found an amateur video and took a screenshot. Notice how all the grasshoppers are around the white lights and not the amber light. They're just ignoring that. There's also a news story that points that out, where they explain that the grasshoppers just don't see that color of light very well. So that's why the bug lights are yellow, and actually a recent test, which surprised me, said the warm white LED outdoes even bug lights at not being attractive to insects. So Houston is insect city, not really the best place to put white lights everywhere. One thing I wanted to mention with the birds, I was going to give a little more information. There's a study out of Chicago that showed that birds we know we get West Nile virus goes from birds and mosquitoes to us, or is it the other way around? The birds have the West Nile, tell me which way is it?
It circulates naturally between birds and mosquitoes, and we're just incidental dead-end hosts.
Right, so the birds can be hosts, and we get bit by the mosquitoes, but the birds have the West Nile virus in their system, 41%, that's almost half again as long, in their systems when they're living around bright light. And the other thing is also the really recent studies, their immune systems are affected also by light at night. So it takes at least 2 years in most cities, and Houston's more like 4, to get them to listen to reason. Mayor Turner is showing some interest again, but if he doesn't get reelected, we've got to start all over again. But they asked us to send in a lighting ordinance minutes text. We sent them Tucson's. The International Dark Sky Association is rewriting their model ordinance for white light. Oh, it's okay. I'll tell you where there'll be a funny video at the end where we can wake you up again. So this is part of the problem. The press does cover this, but notice who gets the last word.
You may wear sunglasses when it's sunny, but tonight some residents in a North Bay community have resorted to wearing them to block out what they say are overly bright new streetlights.
Yeah, they catch your attention. ABC 7 News reporter Kate Larson has the story now from San Rafael.
You can see how it just blinded me in my eyes.
Elise Leolin says this streetlight took her by surprise when one night last month it lit up her little street on an otherwise dark San Rafael hilltop.
I was really upset. I was upset because I love the night.
Elise and about 100 other San Rafael residents have complained to the city about how bright and white the new LEDs are compared to the dimmer yellow light cast by the old high-pressure sodium streetlights.
The neighbors are noticing the difference in them.
Bill Guerin is the director of public works in San Rafael. He says the city took out an $800,000 loan to pay for the 2,700 new LED streetlights. So far, 2,400 have been installed. Guerin says wherever neighbors have complained about the LEDs, the city may install dimmers or light shields.
If a light is shining back from the street light to someone's house, putting a shield behind the light will block that light from going to the residents.
While Elise is protecting her eyes at night with sunglasses, her neighbor says he likes the new look.
I think they're safe. I think this neighborhood is far too dark. We've had trouble with robberies, break-ins into the mailboxes. They're not that significantly more bright than the old lights.
The LED lights are expected to save $175,000 in yearly electrical costs. In San Rafael, Kate Larson, ABC 7 News.
So our message is that our lights save even more money and they save even more energy. One of the more recent Houston area articles came out of Galveston. I love the picture there. This is the bad lighting still going up. This is an unshielded decorative light in Sugarland that I was just sent a couple months ago from someone in the Astronomical Society who said he appeared on his street. Fort Bend County Engineering is interested. There is a lighting ordinance that protects the George Observatory, but doesn't extend all the way as far as Sugarland. And Maggie Dalton in their engineering office told me they are alarmed at some of the lighting going up in Sugarland. So don't light the LEDs stop crime best because, gee, it's like daylight outside. This was sent to me. This is a next door listing. That's the social media for neighborhoods. It says, just found out that my neighbor's black Sahara Jeep Wrangler was stolen last night. The vehicle was parked on the street across from our houses and directly underneath a new LED lamppost. I found out later it's the first night it was turned on. So you've got houses across the street they're not noticing. He thinks it happened between 10 and 12 p.m. At the end he says it's a darn shame. Stay safe. So why wouldn't this be the best crime fighting? Well, this is what happens when you put white light outside people's windows. Trying to block it out requires you to make like a fortress. The very thickest shades, people wouldn't even notice a motion detector going off. They're extremely hard to block out. But this is the lighting that we have in Woodside. This is actually in a new Katy subdivision. There's no houses around it. I was sent there, I think we put in our lights in 2010 to look at them, by actually Shelton Mitchell, who is the LED project manager for Centerpoint. He was extraordinarily helpful when we were trying to get shielded lighting. He's kind of working for them now. No, we're not going to change the color, but having worked with him back then, I suspect inside that he's sympathetic to us. Ours were at least first put in backwards. They have a kind of a fan-shaped light. He had two guys out there turning them around one weekend on overtime, and then everybody loved them. So imagine these lights surrounded by houses that have either no light or just a little subdued lighting, and the rest of the background did not look black. I went over there. You could see the sky, you could see the trees silhouetted in it. Unfortunately, the camera can't show that, but we could see the dark areas too. There are a number of good street lights, and Cree was one of the first with their RSW. There are many more right now, but this guys definitely have the best ad.
is the Cree RSW LED streetlight. Energy cost savings your city needs, with warm color temperatures and low glare your citizens want. Utilizing Cree's patented WaveMax technology, it directs light where it's needed, and away from people's bedrooms. The groundbreaking, nobody will want to saw it down, Cree RSW streetlight.
So we sent this to the city. CenterPoint actually agreed to test these, but only at a wattage that's even higher than our current street lights. Our friends were already using 19 watts and 20 watts in California, and they would only test them at 50 watts, and they said, we'll only do it on our test lot, so I've never seen them. So we have been unable to get good light even tested in the Houston area. Whoops, somehow backed up. The last argument is the aesthetics argument. I don't know if anyone here is a Stranger Things, Netflix Stranger Things fan.
My dad watches it.
Your dad watches it, okay. You'll watch it when you're a little older maybe. But there's like the regular dimension that we all live in, and notice the nice warm cozy lighting, and then there's a parallel evil dimension that's in the same place we live, except it's where all the evil beings live, and they like inhabit people and turn them evil like a gooey. And I noticed that Hollywood often uses cool lighting or cold lighting to make you feel scared. So there's also how does lighting make you feel? That's also important. And for those of you who haven't seen Stranger Things, this is the baby boomer edition for the older generation. Do you want to live on a Hallmark Channel or with the Addams Family? So again, here's actual streetlights. The one on the left, I took that picture from my front bedroom, which thank goodness is being used as an office right now, when my streetlight first came in 2016, I think it was. And I have a house side shield, but even the reflected light off the street is so bright it comes through the blinds. So I would need to add a lot more shielding onto that bedroom if it ever gets used as a bedroom. On the right side are the streetlights I saw in Riverside County, California. I actually drove with my friend from Los Angeles to a couple hours to see them. And this light, this light is about 17 watts versus our 45 watt light. And notice how warm and friendly that light is. That's what our lighting engineers who Houston will not listen to are doing. And they were doing that back as far as 2015, 2016. This picture probably looks a little bright. I think it's still during the day. They called me and told me we're now using 14 watt lights versus our 45. So that's 1/3 the brightness. They said it looks great. So one thing that's happened is not only are the light designs getting better, keeping the glare out of your eyes, but we are getting more light per watt. So fainter lights can put out a little bit more light, or lower wattage lights can put out a little bit more light now. The first good business lighting I saw using LEDs are a number of Shell stations in Houston. Not all of them, but a lot of them, especially along the Southwest Freeway, Kirby Westland, have converted to the warm LED color. You can look directly at the lights, they don't hurt you, whereas the Exxon across the street at Westland, it has very bright white lights, and while we were taking the picture, a car on the right was left without its headlights on, and I see this all the time. Don't assume someone's drunk if they're driving without headlights. They get confused by the white light. In fact, that happened to me the other day. Someone stopped me. I had my oil change, someone had turned my automatic off, and I didn't even notice. So he actually drove onto the Southwest Freeway feeder still with his lights off. So you just don't need, yes, you can see under the white light on the Exxon, but it's harsh and it's hard on your eyes, whereas the Shell station is very easy on the eyes. So if I have a little time just to show you good versus bad light, this is from the International Dark Sky Association. The difference is that the lights on the left side are lighting where when you stand to the side, you actually see the light bulbs. On the right side, they just have a shield, so you don't see the light bulbs, you just see the light coming out of them. So I have some examples on the back table of actual lights, and then on the left side, you'll see something called the PAR shield. So if someone has an inexpensive sockets where you just plug in floodlights, as long as they're the full-size floodlight size, which they do make an LED, they can buy this shield at parshield.com and just clip it on. And it allows them to still point the light outward, and there's no glare. The one on the right, I've just installed on my house in Woodside, and it's got little warm LEDs at the very top, and it's dimmable. It's beautiful, and I have a sample back there. Oh yeah, the one in the middle is on my house, the house I'm living in right now on Grape Street. So there's contemporary, there's all sorts of styles. Problem is that you need to find them online to get all the variety, and you have to use the term dark sky. So I've been writing them, they need to do something called dark sky lights. New improved non-glare for best visibility, and not just call them dark sky, because people see them as specialty lights. Just to show the difference, sports fields you will use wider lighting because they're playing sports. Notice the difference between the old lighting and the field on the right is 150 feet from a neighborhood, and this is what the houses see versus on the left. Businesses, and this would be about 70% of Houston's glare, I would estimate, have a lot of these lights where they're on a hinge, and all they have to do is get someone up there on a ladder to turn them down. They would also be able to use a lot less light, but at the minimum, they just turn them to face downward. It would look, you can see the before and after, it'd be so much easier for drivers. This is a traditional porch light where you see the bulb. You can see the stairs somewhat, but notice how much better you see the stairs with porch lights that hide the bulb. And notice on the left side, you don't even need an enormous amount of light to see your way around. This is a car shield before and after, so there's a bright floodlight, and you just clip on the shield, and it's the difference between the top and the bottom, and you actually see behind the light much better. This is Tucson Streetlights. They are using a fairly white, warm white, but they're using them toned down. This again is Chris Monrad, one of our lighting engineer advisors. He has finished Tucson now. He actually managed to reduce sky glow at peak, even using a wider light by using them judiciously. And notice you see much better than Houston. And this is from the air. Houston on the left, you can see what a long way we have to go. A lot of the bright glare is actually business lighting. And then Tucson's on the right. This is what happens when an entire city shields its lights and uses a little bit warmer color. Look how much more beautiful the sky color is there. This is Los Angeles, which I thought was a good template for Houston. We copied them. In 2016, they decided the white lights they were using were too bright, and they went to a warmer light. So this is actually on their website. What I use this to show is that their wattage went down. So for instance, we still have a 95-watt replacement for the 150-watt high-pressure sodium. They are now going down as low as 44 watts, 60, 50, 60, they keep going down. And they're using only the 2700K or 3000. 2700K, I think, is in the neighborhoods, a little bit warmer. But that's still a lot lighter than our previous lights that you can see well. Inside, if you want to wind down for going to bed, I love these lights. These are kind of light lamp bulbs and also floodlights. It's a Philips scene switch. You don't need a dimmer switch. You just flip the switch over and over again. And it goes from daylight, which I actually like, mixed in with window light, to warm white, to half bright amber, which is great for bathrooms or your bedside lamp at night. All you have to do is just flip the switch. Your computer screen and your cell phone screen, whether you have Apple or Android, there's settings to take out the blue backlight so that you don't get that blue light keeping you up at night. So if you have kids, tell them to use that if they want to read at night or use their device late at night. So what can you do? You make sure you know this term, RP8-18. I have all this information on our website. This is the newer roadway calculation methods, and tell them you want your city to use the new lower glare calculation method for street lighting. So Houston has most of its street lights in, but if your street's doing street construction, CenterPoint's going to push back, but try to get your civic club on board. We had someone from Moran, you're from Seattle. They pushed and pushed, and finally one neighborhood just really got together and pushed back, and now they're doing the warmer lights in Seattle from now on. So sometimes a neighborhood can really make a difference. Also, we did convince the Houston Police Department, Art Acevedo, I noticed when he came in, is from California, and Austin, where they do the lighting better. So I started writing him like 2 months after he came. It took him 9 months and 2 orders, and we finally got our sentence, which says in their burglary prevention brochure, which says non-glare soft lighting and downward shielding is optimal when selecting lighting products to achieve optimal visual results. So people will believe security people, like the police, more than they'll believe amateur astronomers on lighting. And that's, we'll work on that end too. Finally, we've got a lamp demonstration, which the lamp is $20 on Amazon and has 5 different colors, 7 different brightnesses, and Happy Meal toys work great, or action figures. And then just to show you, this is Chris Moran, this is Jim Benya, this is Bill Wren, who's also helped. He's the McDonald Observatory guy. He works on oil rig lighting. And this is Flagstaff, Arizona, which uses narrowband lighting to protect Lowell Observatory. This is the sky 6 miles from a city of 107,000. So you can see they can see really great the city, and they can see the sky really well. So thank you very much, and if anyone has time to stay, I will do that. Demonstration is 60 seconds, so it's something you can do at the end of the meeting. Do it? Okay. So we need to try, yeah, you already got the lights off. So when I have a lit room, I can mostly simulate, it's best in a dark room, but I will put the guy in the back because I'm comparing the lighting for, you always see the guy in front. No one has problems with that. The guy in back, or the car, is what's going to change. So this lamp has, I'm going to do it in 2 different directions since y'all are sitting in 2 different directions. So I start out with my bad security light. So I'm going to put some glare in your eyes from blue light. Let me make sure this is working. And it should be enough to, if I've tilted it right, to where the guy, let me do it a little bit more, where the guys in the box are harder to see. And this is much more pronounced in a dark room. Now if you hold up your hand to block the white light, the guy in the box, and we'll do it in this direction too, it should become easier to see. He doesn't have 0 light. He doesn't have as much light, but he should be easier to see. Okay, now we can turn to the Houston Streetlights, which are about that color, and they have, it's not going to be a little less pronounced because it's not dark in here. They cast a little bit of glare. It's like a sliver, but again, in a dark room, if you put your hand above, you'll see the guy in the back, which will be clearer if you block it. Now, we could just level the lights, and again, in a dark room, you'd see both of them really clearly, no glare, but the problem is sleeping around that much light. So we can change the color to the, and this is just a warm white, it's not amber. And then we can see how in a dark room I could go all the way down to the lowest or to the second lowest. And this is sort of what you want to sleep around. So you would still be able to see in the dark room the guy behind, no problem. And it's amazing how far down you can go. And then you'd be able to sleep, you'd be able to walk safely. In fact, in Woodside, they do walk safely with our lights. And I just got, probably for the 3rd time, a security alert from Woodside saying surrounding areas where they have all the white LED light are having problems with car break-ins. They didn't say, every time they said the surrounding areas are having problems, our crime's going down. So you don't need, there's lots of studies of no light versus light. There's very few studies of good light versus bad light, and that's what we need right now. But Woodside tends to fare well with the shielded lighting. And one more time, let me just do it real quick here. So I'm going to go up to the right, and I'm going to go to the, let me get back to there. So this is $20 on Amazon. These are free Happy Meal toys if you get a $3.56 Happy Meal. So at first, this is a bad security light, but it's very blue light, and you should be able to hide it and see everything behind them a little bit better. This is the color of the street lights, and it's less glare, and again, but in a dark room, these guys will be hard to see. Again, you can see better without, if you hide the light. You level it, you see everything great, but do you need that much light in a residential area? So you turn it a little warmer. You can go down quite a bit and see well on a major street, and you go down way down and see well on a residential street, see everything you need to. And that's what some of the more enlightened other cities are doing. So thank you very much. I know it's a long